start this morning with just a little bit of meditation, this evening, excuse me, a little breath awareness or mantra. Okay, let's come. Um, yeah, do some asanas, a little meditation, and then get into our class subject for the class tonight. So let's just start here. So what's so-called circle of joy. Inhale, lift through the crown of the head. Exhale, stretch through the shoulders. Inhale, push up. Exhale, arch, bring the hands around the back. Inhale, shoulder blades together. Exhale, back. Again, inhale, nice and long. Exhale. Once more. Inhale, come over, stretch. Up. Yes. Reach. Inhale. And over again. One more round. Then come and hold the pose. Remember, each inhale, kind of align yourself, one shoulder over the other. At each exhale, reach. Continue doing that with each breath. Inhale, align, or check your alignment. Exhale, open those fingertips. Try to stretch out. Remember, you're anchored from the bottom of the hip and lifting out. Then inhale up, reach for the ceiling. Exhale, back over. Same thing. Inhale, check the alignment. Exhale, open. Just continue working with the breath. Inhale back up and over into a twist. Think through the crown of the head. And moving with the breath. Over. Remember, one hand on the floor keeps you erect. Everybody looks pretty erect to me. Inhale up and over. Once again. This time, come and hold the pose. Inhale, lift through the crown of the head. Each exhale, let go. Relax deeper into the twist. And then turn the head the opposite direction. Tighten it a little bit. And release. Let that go. Come up and over the other side again. Hold the pose, but moving with the breath. Each inhale, lifting the crown of the head. Each exhale, letting go. And kind of relaxing. See if you can go deeper in the twist by relaxing or letting go of some kind of tightness or tension rather than forcing. But then now when we do this reverse, now we are putting some tension in, head the opposite direction than the belly. Deepen that. And then release. Kind of like the progressive muscle relaxation, if you remember when we would tighten and then relax the body. Okay, let's come onto hands and knees into tabletop. Inhale, lifting hips, pulling, or lifting shoulders, pulling hips back. Exhale, arch, and come back down. Belly to chest, buttocks on heels, forehead on mat. Inhale, reverse that order, pulling back in the hands, lift the head, then off the heels, and then all the way up. Exhale, repeat. So try to come slow, nice long exhale. Slower is better in this system. Big breaths, long, deep breaths. Exhale. Okay, pause. Bring the hands forward, curl the toes, push yourself up into downward dog. Remember, more weight at the base of the fingers than the wrists. Lift hips. Actually, bend one knee then the other to really flex those calves. Now both heels toward the mat. Lift hips and shoulders. Walk yourself forward. And I will move my camera. Okay. That looks good. Okay, so from here, ground those feet, lift the toes, stretching the arches, bring the toes back down, shins together, lift the kneecaps, lift from the pelvic floor. Take a deep breath in, exhale, pull the navel in and up, and then shoulders up and back, but buoyant, loose. Upper arms outwards, elbows down inwards, spreading the fingers, chin level and throat to the back of the neck, and lift through the crown of the head. So hold that position, and adjust the camera a little bit again. Okay, with the mountain, inhale up. Exhale, I'll be a mirror for you. Bring the left hand down, stretch the right side, hold the pose, hold the breath out. Inhale back up, exhale over. Hold the pose and the breath out. Inhale, reach for the ceiling. Exhale, fold forward. Maybe I'll show this from the side. You try to pull from the hips first, then come down. You're down, lift hips, pull navel in up, hold that breath out. Inhale back up, right back to the mountain pose. Lifting pelvic floor, navel in and up, shoulders up and back, and then open. Holding breath in. Open belly and chest, and then big release. Like that. Okay. Let's do a few more of these. And left hand down, stretching right side. You start pushing into that right leg as you're reaching out, sort of pushing into the floor with the foot and reaching up with the arm, holding that breath out. Inhale up. In other words, moving in opposite directions, two parts of your body. Open up. Reaching for the floor again. Pull from the hips down. Lift hips and chest. Pull navel. No, no. Inhale, ground those feet. Lift the pelvic floor. Inhale up. Hold belly open, chest open. And release. Just do a couple more of those, two more of those, two more rounds. Big breath. Hold. Inhale. Keep your awareness in the pose, the sensations, the mountain, lifting pelvic floor as much as you can, the feet grounded. Much of the mountain cues as possible. Inhale up, full from the hips. Lift. Hips sink the chest. Inhale up. Again, ground. Shins together, lift pelvic floor, throat to back to neck, then inhale. Holding breath in, belly open, chest open. Big breath out. Let's do one more. Inhale up. Exhale over, hold. Fill up, hold forward, hold. Inhale back to mountain. And then back bend. Breath in, hold. And big release. Maybe that warrior one pose. Remember the mountain though, lifting the pelvic floor, particularly navel in and up, throats to the back, the neck. Let's just do the heart opener version tonight. Inhale, open. Exhale, back together. Again. And again. Breathe through the center of the chest, center of the sternum. This time, let's hold the pose. Taking deep breaths. Shoulder blades together, opening that heart center. And back, and pause for a moment. Just sense what you feel in this part of the body. Switch. Take a moment to really get yourself stable, grounded. In the mountain pose, particularly lifting from the pelvic floor, navel in and out. Shoulders up and back, throat to back, the neck, and then legs back. Again. Once more, open and back. And then this time, come and hold the pose. Big breaths right through the heart. Open. Let yourself open. And back, and pause for a moment. Come back into mountain pose. Inhale up and fold forward. Again, inhaling up. Fold forward. Time slide the hands up under the knees. Lift the hips, or lift the shoulders, pull back on the hips. Feel the back straightening out, a little bit of stretch behind the knees. And then come down, bending the knees, walking yourself forward into the downward dog position. And straighten out into what's called plank position, plank pose, nice and straight. And then onto your belly. Get ready for the cobra. And I change the camera again. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Well, I like the hands about in the shoulders, but if that's a little bit of a strain, you can put them a little forward from the shoulders. That's easier. Start activate the legs, so point the toes, take a deep breath in and out. As you exhale, pull shoulders up and back. Inhale, pull back in the hands to lift first the chest, and then push in, lifting lower ribs and belly, and holding the pose, and back down. Pause for a couple of breaths, and then repeat. Inhale, exhale, pull back in the hands, lift shoulders first. Come as far as you can without pushing, then push. Then hold breath in, about 8 seconds. And slowly back down. Big breath in and out. More pull back, come up slowly, first in stages. Hold. Exhale slowly down. Remember, there's flex points, the neck and the mid-back between the thoracic and lumbar spines. So we go slow to try to get more movement, particularly through the thoracic. The remember the vertebrae with ribs attached to them? Inhale, exhale. Pull back in hands. I feel a lengthening of the back. So you come up slowly. When you can't come any further, then push in to lift the belly. And slowly back down. Yeah, let's continue. Deep breath in and out. Back, lift. And slowly back down. Let's continue. Okay, we'll do 2 more. There'll be a total of 8 rounds. So this is the recommendation for this pose is one I recommend you do every day. Holding 8 seconds and doing 8 rounds. Breath is held in because it's a back bend. Take a deep breath in and out. Some more, pull back, come up nice and slowly. And back down. One more time. Deep breath in and out. And come up. Vertebrae by vertebrae if you can. Hold. And slowly back down. And push yourself up into this kneeling position. And again, if you have trouble with the knees, you can put a blanket or something behind the knees, like so. So I adjust the camera one more time. There we go. Okay. Okay, start though with a nice tall posture. Inhale up, fold forward. What you do, pull back in the hips and reach for the arms. Forehead comes on the mat. In the holds 8 seconds, breath held out, forward bend. Inhale back up. And again, we'll try to do 8 rounds if I remember the count. Inhale, nice and tall, stretch forward. Pull back in the hips, stretch the hands forward. Inhale up. Remember, if you want to work on strengthening the core, keep the hands, up nice and straight, and upper arms by the ears. Should come back, pull back on the hips. The real strengthening comes if you can keep those arms up and long as you come back up. Requires you, working through the abdominal muscles and the back. So that was 3, I believe. Let's continue on. And back up. But please don't, in the effort to be over zealous about strengthening, that you fall on your face. It's a matter of always with yoga, always with the asanas, listen to your body. Challenge it a little bit, but not over challenge. To come down the 5th round. And that requires you having a loving relationship with your own body. Inhale up. And then remember the idea of letting go. And letting go, it's like a prayer pose. It's a surrender. It's letting go of what bothers us, and also letting go of thinking we have to know everything. We don't know everything. So the world's a very big place, and we only know a very small part of it. He'll back up. And who knows how many other worlds there are with advanced consciousness, advanced living creatures in this vast universe of ours. So final 1, let go. And back up. See how we're doing. Not too bad. Let's do one more. Come to a seated position. Not a very tight, kind of an open position, not too tight. Grabbing the left wrist behind the back. Fold from the hips. Come forward. Hold the breath out. And inhale back up. And again, try to lead with the heart rather than the head. But of course, at some point, you do have to bend from the shoulders too. But start to bend from the hips and the belly. And if we're not too flexible with this, don't worry about that. Actually, with practice, it will come. Exhale. And about 8 rounds, holding 8 seconds. Again. Okay, I think that was 4. Number 5. Down, exhale. Go back up again in this style. We're only doing a few poses, but we do them multiple repetitions and with held pose and held breath. Remember what was said about introspection, going slow, monitoring those internal sensations as we come into I believe, the sixth round. And two more. Once more down. Exhale, hold. Inhale back up. The last one. You can try to keep that back nice and long as we come down. And back up. So my recommendation is you do the cobra and that forward, bowing forward every day. Those two, if you have more time, do this last one we did, the folding from the cross-legged position. And of course, the deep relaxation. And then anything else you want to throw in if you have time, by all means. Let's actually finish with the massage again. I think we went over this last week. Cupping the eyes, pull down the eyebrows. Again, you can shorten it, but try to do a little massage after you do your 2 or 3 poses, and then forehead and scalp. Even if it's abbreviated one, massaging the top of the eyes, down the temples and the ears. I'll go a little faster today. Down the cheeks, besides the hand, getting the nose, lips, and chin. Thumbs underneath the chin, working along back under the jaw. With the thumbs along the throat. A little bit of pressure. And the shoulder, armpit. And each finger between the thumb and the forefinger in the center of the palm. Yeah, the shoulder too. And again, remembering to appreciate your body, coming upper arm. And remember, the armpit has those lymph nodes, part of what we're doing. Lymph moves by a series of one-way valves, just like the venous blood. So you're squeezing it and it can't go back. And that way you're moving it up along the wrist, hand, and each finger. Lymph comes out of the blood system when the blood's coming into the tissues, and then it needs this movement to work its way back up. It's not pumped, nor is the blood cells on the return trip pumped. So movement's essential, and this massage helps get along the back. And other side. And the ribs and the chest. Again, reminding yourself to self-examine, those of you, the women in the class, and along the, I'd like to see if we can get in between the ribs and underneath the rib cage and the belly. Along the back from the spine outwards. Again, those QL muscles tend to tighten up when they're protective when something's going wrong. A little bit of loosening, and then along the pelvic rim and the glutes with the knuckles. A lot of back pain actually comes from the glutes, the lower back here. I think one of the more common areas. Excuse me. And then the hip, start at either leg. And again, rub, digging, chopping, whatever feels good. And the knee a little more gently. The calf. Big wrestle on the calf, down to Achilles heel, and the top of the toe, the foot to the tips of the toes, and turning the foot over. Go a little faster today because if we take too long, then you won't get it in every day. It'd be nice if you can get the massage. If you don't have time, then maybe just do a little bit. Get along that arch, and again, if you want more pressure, you can use your elbow and each toe, base to tip. And whatever you do daily is better than nothing. So same thing with meditation. A short meditation of a few minutes is better than 0 minutes. Because otherwise you're going to get into the, oh, I don't have time. You do have time. Just whatever time you have, use. Find it. Yeah, chop. I like to tell my students that there's always time for meditation, but the universe may hide it from you. So it's like a hide and seek. Where am I going to find that time? Get the knee. Of course, it's best is if you have a regular time. That's my time. But sometimes life throws curves at us, and we also have to be flexible. Okay, Achilles heel, top of the foot to the tips of the toes. And finally ending up with the bottom of the foot. Again, knuckles, thumbs, elbow. Go a little fast. Each toe base to tip. Spreading those toes. And with a slap. Come down onto your mat into a relaxation pose. I recommend maybe a folded blanket like a pillow. You might try putting something on your knees. This is my little block. But anything you do, you can experiment with it. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's kind of nice. It helps the back flatten out a little bit, and the hands, palms up. Come back to your breath. At this point, if you have time, you can do the progressive muscle relaxation and or the body scan we did, or you could just do a simple, like we did last week. Shavasana, remember, like where you can take your body off. Start by awareness of your breath. Maybe breathing into any region in your body that feels a little tight or tense or just has strong sensations, whatever they are. Maybe knees if you have knee trouble, shoulders. Just imagine directing the breath there. And after a few moments, allow the body to sink into whatever you're lying on. Again, the concept that you can take the body off. Remember from the Bhagavad Gita that soul changes bodies the way a person changes clothes. So imagine just like taking your clothes off at night, you're changing your clothes. You can take this body off and let it lie here. And let your mind, your soul be free of the body for a few minutes. Withdrawing your mind from any physical sensations and just maybe floating on the rhythm of the breath. Maybe imagining yourself in this vast universe. Or maybe imagine the breath coming in and out like the surf on a very gentle day. And the surf just rolls slowly in and then rolls slowly back out. Either way, just feel that rhythm. Without the body, let your mind expand. And And let go of any thought that you have to do anything right now. There's nothing required of you. Just to be here and be yourself. Whatever you imagine yourself to be. Once you've let go of the body, you're also letting go of limitations. Feel yourself at peace in this vast universe. Your mind gets pulled away or distracted by something, that's natural. Just acknowledge it and then bring your mind back. It's this sense of peace, calm, for another couple minutes. Let go of all responsibilities, all thoughts of things you need to do. Okay, now bring your awareness back to your breath, wherever it has wandered to. Full sensation of each in-breath and full sensation of each out-breath, breath by breath and moment by moment. As you start to put the body back on again, into your face, your shoulders, arms, moving the fingers. Breath through the chest, inhale, exhale. Another breath, this time through the chest into the belly. And your awareness down your hips and thighs to your knees, from the knees, the calves to the ankles, ankles to the feet and toes, moving the toes and the fingers, the arms and the legs. And when you're ready, just hold those knees and roll over to one side, like in a fetal position, and stay there for a few moments. As you're ready, pushing yourself up into a seated position. Okay, glasses back on. Now I need to get closer so I can. Okay. So I'd like to begin today with yeah, let's see. I need to share the screen. Yeah, this little short article from Risk of Poor Health by Sandro Galea, Dr. Galea. She's both a medical doctor and this DRPH. That means a doctor of public health. So, who had a chance to read this? Did everybody have a chance to read? Sharon, what would you find was the main take from this? Hey, you're muted. You're, whoops, you muted yourself again. That's okay.
Okay. All right, there we go. Um, what I got from that was that she really, really wanted to make it clear that it was about socioeconomic opportunities and that it was all about having money. That's the poor people that don't get good health care or eat well, and that was just, that there's other reasons, other excuses, but it all eventually comes back to economic opportunity. Like even the smoking, like, yeah, people get heart disease that smoke, but who smokes?
Hmm.
Economically disadvantaged,
Hmm.
for the most part.
What,
That's right.
Renee, what did you think? What do you think? And you are muted as well.
I'm sorry. I don't think I read this article.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't read it. Yeah.
Okay. Carl, did you have any thoughts? Did you like to share?
I was a little lost between week 6, 7, and 8. It was like, it's a
Okay.
bit of a blur.
Okay. Then I
Sorry.
think I'll go through this but I mean, Sharon shared the essential message, but I've highlighted here in orange. It starts out with two hypotheses. It could be uh, the problems, a risk of health. Remember, the title is Risk of Poor Health. It could be because of exposure, or it could be because these populations are more vulnerable. And right away, he seems to go right with the exposure. So that means the environmental conditions. And vulnerability, that was in the quiz. That would have been in question one. That would have been the option of genetic vulnerability.
Oh.
He doesn't find the people differentially and vulnerable, but the exposure. And so, well, Sharon, what do you think the consequences of this are for treatment of what you said,
When I said,
the social economic?
well, just have more opportunities, in the poor areas, have bring the care out to them, bring the groceries or the somehow find a way to bring them to the groceries or the groceries to them, by
Huh.
having
Okay, good.
markets, markets, or maybe even a bus trip to, some place where they could get good food.
Yeah, so, and this really depends on how we view disease. So, and I think, down here somewhere, it was like in 1993, it started out like, well, a person has cancer, a person has heart disease. What do we need? We need a new chemotherapy, we need surgery, we need drugs. That's the mindset. But if it's behavioral, then we're saying, oh, well, we need to get people to change their behavior. But if that behavior is correlated with the economic circumstance, social economic circumstances, then that's, you have, it's getting about the root cause. If you don't get the root cause, you just treat the symptoms, then it's not going to work as well. I think that's the main message of this paper. And that goes back to, I think was said in, I believe in one of Dr. Ornish's um, videos, and certainly in his book, um, Spectrum. He said he once asked his patients, why do you drink too much? Why do you smoke? Why do you overwork? These things seem so counteradaptive, maladaptive to me. And they said, Dean, you don't get it. Uh, these things are very adaptive. They help us get through the day. Or they'll say things like, I have 20 friends in this pack of cigarettes, and they're always here for me, and nobody else is. The epidemic of loneliness. So, and the stress of a low social economic situation. There's a lot of stress. Maybe they're working two jobs. Maybe trying to make ends meet, and you're living in a dangerous neighborhood, and your apartment needs repair all the time because you can't afford. This stress is built up, and with that, numbing the pain, and unfortunately, numbing the pain, or the pain itself. I mean, the stress itself is already uh, hurting our health, but the behaviors that we're talking about that we want to correct, they're the way people get through the day. So if you don't underline these causes, and I think that's pretty much what you said, Sharon. Okay. Um, any thoughts on that? Any feedback? What do you think? Do you believe it? Carl, any opinions about this idea of going deeper into the root causes?
Yes and no, because you can also you can probably find other statistics that people who live a simple rural life have less cancers and less diseases of the opulent. So there are, I mean, it's a very tricky subject. There are
I
many
think there
ways.
was even along there with what you're saying, Carl, wasn't there something in our reading that said exactly what you were saying, Carl? It was a group or something, and they had, although uh, they were lower income, they still didn't have as much heart disease, but they were happier or something. Are you guys familiar with the reading I'm referring to?
I think you're referring to the community in Roseto, Pennsylvania, where, um, yeah, it was another working class community, but they were immigrants from the same town or same area of Sicily, and they had a very close community connection. But
Right.
remember when that community connection
Broke
broke
down.
down.
Right.
So yes, the behaviors are not any the only story, but the lack of community is another factor. It's these lifestyles of total lifestyle. There's some people who like to think diet's the main factor, but I think to me what the paper here is what I was saying is instead of treating the cancer, let's go to the causes. And I guess, Carl, what you're saying is you can live a simple lifestyle. But is that by choice or is that by
So I'll give you a practical example. I lived some years in Greece, and Greece has the lowest income in Europe and has the longest lifespan. And I come from Denmark, who has one of the highest income and the lowest lifespan. And so what I had to think about that because I lived in both countries and I saw those things. So what I saw in Greece is that they had primarily a plant-based diet and very strong social connections.
yes?
Whereas in Denmark it was opposite. They ate a lot of meat and they didn't know anybody.
And
So
that's exactly what the research
so
showed.
that's the two factor I would point out from my practical experience.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Of course, even Denmark has a higher life expectancy than the United States. even though we are wealthier. Yeah, and there's something to be said about that. And the Mediterranean diet is largely plant-based. Okay, I think maybe we can go on from there. I think what I wanted to talk about next was, let's see, hopefully you're going to see. No, okay. Um, well, of course, I think by now you're all familiar with the fact that heart disease and cancer are leading causes of death. This was even kind of close to the height of COVID. COVID never surpassed cancer and heart disease. And then we even have here accidents, unintentional injuries, which again could, I guess what I would say in terms of the income, Carl, is not, it's not the income itself, it's the mindset that comes with it. In the United States, low social income puts a lot of pressures that I would say people with a simple lifestyle can live well with a low income, but somehow that hasn't happened in the United States. Low
And I think
income.
a lot of it is education too. People in lower economic areas not actually having the information on healthy eating and how important it is.
And then as Sharon pointed out, having availability, food deserts. And I don't know, I didn't share with you, did I? Maybe I should have some of the actions people are taking. Like in the Capital District where I live, there's something called a Veggie Mobile that goes around and it's just doing what you said, Sharon, providing healthier alternatives. Also, community gardens, getting people out and working, and farmers markets. Again, getting connection with local foods. These are all being done, perhaps not in the scale we would like, but and of course, Mayor Adams' initiatives to bring healthier food into neighborhoods in New York City. If you remember from that article, he said along the further along the subway line, I knew my constituents did not have access to that healthy food. So part of it is access. You're right, and I think that's what I. Well, first of all, again, United States. Let's see. I don't see Denmark in here, Carl, but you can see all the European. 77.5, and the average of wealthier countries. We're pretty far below what everybody else is. And of course, what this shows is that we're below, well below, and less, and we took a stronger hit at COVID, and we've recovered less. And notice that even before COVID, we really, everybody, there's this perception that we're all living longer. Well, for a whole decade, we really didn't gain a significant amount. In fact, there were 3 years here in a row that Washington Post made a big deal of that we lost ground, and then we really lost ground. This only goes to 2002, but we still haven't totally recovered. Uh, but is this the whole story? Are we living longer? What do people think? I think we lost Renee. She must have had an internet thing, but hopefully she'll come back. People say we're living longer. How would you answer that question, Carl, when somebody says we're living longer? Would you agree or not? I mean, there's this data, but is there any
Yeah.
question that?
I mean, just like if you say Europe, there's a huge difference between North and South. And if you say United States is living longer, but are you living better? And who is living longer?
Okay.
What's the quality of life, I would say.
Okay.
So,
Who's
so,
living
so,
longer?
so that's very debatable.
Okay.
It's like using gross national product as a measure of wealth, which it isn't.
And
Uh,
you're kind of leading into the point I wanted to get to next. Sharon, what do you think?
The question was, are we living longer? Well,
What's the
I,
perception? I mean, we hear that.
I mean, we're not. I mean, on those charts, we were way down, pretty low. And considering that we're a first world country and that we have resources, I think that we're doing pretty poorly.
Okay. Renee, so we're asking the question. People say we're living longer. You hear that expression. I don't know if you've heard it so much after COVID, but certainly before COVID. Uh, is there any nuance to that, or what do you think? I mean, the chart says we kind of plateaued before COVID, but do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Based on the statistics I think that I read, I don't know that we're necessarily living longer. My experience with my loved ones, I don't see that happening. My grandmother lived to 86, my mom lived to 74.
Yep. My grandparents outlived my parents,
Yeah.
although my brother and I have outlived our parents, so there was
Well, yeah, we've outlived my dad, not my mom yet. But
but there were a lot of lifestyle uh,
a
problems.
lot of lifestyle differences.
Okay. Men do not do as well in the United States as women, which you probably also is frequently observed. But I think, going back to Carl's point, who's doing better? Um, okay, there's just men, but I think I want to skip on down. Uh, yeah, we can go through that. Looking by state, I mean, most of you picked out in the quiz, Mississippi. So there's almost what a 9 year difference between Hawaii and Mississippi. And look at all this belt of yellow versus um, here in the West Coast and the Northeast to some extent, with the exception of Maine. New York is kind of in the middle, but not doing bad. Let's see, those of you in North Carolina, you're a little bit below the average for the country, but not too bad. But then you get into this whole belt, and of course, West Virginia. Uh, so obviously there's some variation here, isn't there? Did anybody get a chance to look at the Los Angeles Post article?
What was that one about? There were so many articles.
This one broke it down by county.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Okay.
I think I just looked at the state.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I think the key thing here is that's the range. 66.8, this is by county. Average lifespan in a county. 66.8 is the low, 86.8, a 20-year difference.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge amount, which is, I think, what you were implying, Carl. So really the answer is, are we living longer? Some of us are living longer, but not all of us. Um, let's see, how does that correspond now? I thought this broke this down even further. Yes. So this broke it down by race and ethnicity. Hispanic actually lived the longest. Uh, non-Hispanic white is about what the average, and a non-Hispanic black is the lowest. Okay. So there's obviously some structural um, differences here. There's some social justice issues here, some historic justice issues. And if we go here and look, where are these counties? Of course, there's this big belt in the south, but some of the worst ones are up here in South Dakota. Now, South Dakota as a state, it's in the middle. It's not so bad.
You seem to be pointing like you think you're pointing to states, but the article is up there.
What
I
are you
don't know.
saying? Are you saying?
What are you pointing at? I mean, there's an article up here. Risk of poor health in the US.
Oh, then I have to really,
There's not a map.
when I
I
shift
mean, I'm
screens,
imagining a map.
so in other words, when I shift screens, you do not see me shift. Okay, there's the map.
There you go.
Okay, South Dakota. Now, if I shift here, what do you see?
Oh, that's Los
County,
Angeles Times.
co-
Yeah.
Okay, so I can,
county wise.
okay, so I can shift between the two.
Yeah.
This is the, where is it? And you can still see me scrolling down here now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Basically, this is it. The range is a 20-year range. Uh, basically, Lakota County is this county with the lowest average lifespan, 66.8, is entirely within an American Indian or Native American reservation. This county here, the highest, not that far away, actually, in Colorado, within the ski belt, affluent, physically active inhabitants. And I don't know, but if you're not astounded by this, this is the problem. So this what we showed in this graph when I scrolled down, we're seeing it by race. That's African American. They don't include Native American. And I've seen statistics where the migrant worker, I mean, even though Hispanic is up here, um, the migrant workers in California, the average lifespan for a male is about 49.5 years, which is astounding. Mostly because they think because of the pesticides. So you're seeing the graph here, right? You're seeing the picture of the states. Okay. So we have a problem. We have a problem. And here's another one. This shows us by states. Here's Japan up here at the top, the life expectancy. I don't know if you can see this, but it's 83 years. It's over 83 years. It's approaching 85, 84 and a half. This one is high income countries. Here's China. China recently passed us. But again, if you look at that county up in, in the ski country of Colorado, they're above, this is 85, the top of the chart. They're up here. If you look at that reservation, they're down here. This is the problem in the United States. The
Why
problem,
is the reservation doing so poorly? See, I would think of the positive things they have, like the community and taking care of each other and the multi-generations and identity. I would think all those things are positive. I would think maybe the food, they'd eat more, they wouldn't eat as much junk
oh, you ever
as
hear of fry
as
bread?
huh?
You ever hear of fry bread?
No, is that what they eat?
Yeah, it's kind of a white bread that's fried in oil. Not so healthy.
They don't really eat very well.
What do you
They,
think, Carl?
well, I know a few things about it. So one of the statistics or other statistics that you have to pull up is alcohol and drug dependency.
Yes.
You're and you also have to look at income levels, which is extremely low actually. And so there's definitely a combination of factor, but the biggest one is probably social. Um, they are, for better or for worse, considered a displaced population.
Okay. Right.
So culturally, historically, have lost, have had their backbones knocked out by history, right? And so we see this in other native populations around the world, also similarly in Australia and Southeast Asia. In Africa, it works a little differently. It's more tribal based. But so if you look at those things, you will find a lot of reasons why their lifespan is so low.
What do you think, Renee? You're muted. You're still muted. Renee, you're still muted. I don't know, do I have the
Okay. I don't know very
band?
much about the Native American uh, community. I really don't. And it's weird because, out in California, they were actually becoming very well known because a lot of Native Americans were finding their ancestors and were coming into quite a bit of money out there in California when I left just over 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I don't really know anything about the Native American community, so I couldn't. It would seem to me like it would be the same, like social economics would, not be very good. I don't know. Probably, I imagine. When I think about Indian reservations, I think rural communities, and so they probably don't have access.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and that's a point. When we think of food deserts, we tend to think of inner cities, but actually there's a lot of rural communities without food access, and now they're getting without medical access as there's just too few doctors working in rural areas.
I'll give
Um,
you another extreme examples. The lifespans of Eskimos is also hovering around 40 to 45.
yes. Well,
But
Renee, go ahead.
that's mostly a diet related issue actually, because they live on fish. They don't eat hardly any vegetables or grains.
Okay. Uh, well, Renee, if you're comfortable in saying so, what do you think about the African American community, which one of these
well,
graphs?
I mean, I think it just falls right in line with what all the studies show. I mean, lack of education, um, uh, lack of availability. I mean, I am a witness. It is absolutely easier, quicker, less expensive to just run. Like I have a McDonald's in walking distance to my house. And
There
so
you
I
go.
think all the things that those studies show are correct. And I don't think it's any one thing. I think it's a combination of several things.
Yeah, and there again, there are certainly African Americans who've done well, who particularly after civil rights and live in affluent neighborhoods. But as a community, I think I'd like to go back to what Carl said, but maybe add the idea that there is this concept of generational trauma. As you point out, Carl, Native Americans and other Native people who've been displaced, lost their culture, had it taken away from them. And I would argue that the same thing is true of people who were forced to come over from Africa. That was a brutal system, a very brutal system. Children were taken away from families, culture was kind of beaten out of people, and that has effect. You can't just say, "Oh, okay, you got equal rights now. You can catch up," even though the system's been gained has
I
been
just don't know
biased against you for generations.
right. And I think that in some ways that is absolutely true. But, when I try and just apply things to my own personal self and my life and what I've experienced. And, even though my mom loved pig feet and what are the intestines called?
Oh,
Chitlins and
yes.
all those horrible things. So the story is black people, African Americans were fed the leftovers, the parts of the animals that they didn't want in the main houses, and so and all of that is probably true. But me personally, my mom loved liver and onion. Those things gross me out. And so I think at some point, yeah, maybe, that is in our history, but at some point in the generations, that can't be an excuse anymore.
Okay. Okay. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Fair enough. So I think, but again, if we're talking about public health, we have to address the problem. And I think all those things are true. I mean, education, but they all kind of go together, don't they? So low social economic is usually less education opportunities, less good food in your neighborhood. It kind of all piles together. And there are people, as I say, I gave the example, Capital Roots and what they're doing in the Capital District here. I say Capital District rather than Albany, New York, because it's really three cities grown together, Schenectady, Albany, and Troy. They're all about the same size. So we call it Capital District. And um, there are solutions. And then, of course, what Mayor Adams is trying to do in New York, um, and there's in the farmers markets, they're trying to bring into neighborhoods. So there are movements. There are things we can do. And then on the individual level, absolutely. But I thought I kind of wanted to bring in the social aspect of it and the fact that as a country, other countries do better. And as Carl pointed out, it's not a matter of wealth. Greece is not a wealthy country. United States is the wealthiest country in the world. And you saw where we ranked in terms of, at least with other wealthy countries. And if we go worldwide, we're around 47th. We're up there with Cuba, who's definitely not a wealthy country. Yes, Carl.
There was one of the articles that we had to read, which I really appreciated, and that was the conclusion was that the subsidies to the food producing industries can determine health outputs.
Ah,
Um,
thank you for bringing me back on track. Yes,
yeah.
that's Marin Nestle's. No, I'm not sure. What are you saying now?
Yes, Marion Nestle.
Okay, that's her talk.
Uh,
Uh,
That was actually an angle I hadn't thought about before because I hadn't lived in the United States for a long time. But if you look at the government subsidies that the USDA gives to the various industries, it's very much focused on profit and processed food. I mean, food that can be used in processed food.
yeah, and here she's pointing out an irony. And this is one department in the United States, U.S. Department of Agriculture. Although the Dietary Guidelines for America, abbreviated DGA, that's also done with Health and Human Services. But half the plate, fruits and vegetables, grains, at least half whole grains. Although a lot of people recommend, if you look at Harvard, has a kind of a plate here, and they say all the grains should be whole grains. That's not a bad recommendation. If people ate like that, they would definitely be better. But then, as Carl's pointing out, the same agricultural department has subsidies. And where was that graph? That's the guidelines. Yeah, this is all for animal feed. This is livestock. Here's fruits and vegetables, 0.4%, 0.45%.
God.
Tobacco, 2%. Tobacco. Tobacco is five, what, um, yeah, four times as much subsidy as fruits and vegetables. Oils, and some of those are not so good for us. And cotton, of course, is not a food, but it's part of what the ag department subsidizes. So, yeah, I think that's probably well, her talk covered a lot of ground, didn't it? It also covered the advertising budgets of, um, of, uh, of
mhm.
these companies and how much they're spending. Where was that? It's an enormous amount. Uh, oh, I love this cartoon here. See if I can get it back. Maybe I should just play it here for a moment.
Or of foods that are wrong for health and wrong for the environment. And this is a very, very difficult situation. And it brings me to the whole question of what do you do? I don't know if you can read this. You got to start eating out of.
Did you catch that one? There's the golden arches in the background and this pigeon that's tremendously overweight.
Well,
I enjoyed that one. What I'm looking for is actually, she did have a graph here also of the advertising budgets. And of course, then she talks about, oh, here we go, right here. Um, and there was one before that, I think, if I can find it. Enormous amount of money. So Coca-Cola, this actually was because soda peaked and is going down because of the campaign. And this is what she talks about winning. Of course, people are switching to bottled water, and the bottles in the environment are not so great, but it was one step. And so what they're doing is they're exporting it. Okay, no more soda in the United States. Let's sell it somewhere else. Okay.
Mhm.
But there was one about the advertising budget. I can't find that. It's astounding how much these companies are spending. Uh, to She, by the way, is an emeritus professor. She still has a blog going. She's born in 1936, so this woman's 88, going on 89. I think she's about 80 at the time this talk was given. So she lives it. And some of the other people who advocate plant-based diets are already in their 90s. I'm not finding that budget, that advertising budget for processed foods, but it was an astounding amount of money.
I thought those two slides were right next to each other. It was one slide, and then I
Oh,
thought,
here it is.
oh, there it is. Yeah, yeah,
These are millions.
yeah.
Pop-Tarts. And as she points out in the talk, these are just for one product. So, and that really came back to the uh, yeah. So this is so we talked about the social economic problem, and then the USDA guidelines, what they're advocating. But this then is getting into the financial power of the food industry, which was that other article. Maybe I'll stop sharing and get back to that. Although I might be able to see here. Okay, that's our paper, but here's this slide right here. Okay, are we seeing a slide on industrial revenue? Whoops, wrong one.
We saw it and then we didn't.
Okay, I tried to move the whole thing because for me it's underneath all of your pictures. Trying to move. There we go. Okay, so this is the in financial power, and that's what we saw in the advertisement slide. If I am able to shuttle back and forth, um, this is Cargill, their meat. Nestle. I don't know if you know the story about Nestle. Um, Back when I was doing postdoctoral work in Cornell's nutrition department, they had something called international nutrition. I was watching a slideshow. It was about, I don't know if any of you remember, but in the 1980s, Nestle was pushing formula in some of the poor rural areas of Africa. And of course, the women couldn't afford, they're telling them that, breastfeeding is old-fashioned and all that. Of course, breastfeeding was keeping their babies healthy. And so Nestle pushed this pretty hard. And when the mothers couldn't afford enough of the um, bottled milk, they would dilute it with water, which of course was not, the sanitary conditions weren't so good, and their babies did not do well. And that whole movie, I wasn't in the class. I was just in a copy room, but I watched the end of the movie. And the end of the movie had these women by the graveside, And on the graves were these tin cans rattling because to the end, the mothers thought that the formula was their baby's best friend. The formula, essentially was killing them. And to me, it was taking advantage of some people who were very simple, they were village people, and exploiting them. And from that day on, and that was in the 1980s, I've never knowingly bought a product from Nestle. That's that's my take. But anyway, they talk about it as dairy. The other thing, of course, is that they bought up all this their water rights in Maine to bottle their Poland Spring water, which I also will not buy. Johnson and Johnson, I think that's probably processed. Here's the tobacco companies. Out of this whole graph, not one of these, off just a little off the chart is Doyle pineapple. Not one of these is about plant-based foods. So that's that's where we're at, you know. And I think if and actually Dr. Nessel, and she doesn't pronounce her name Nestle, Nessel. She did another point she brought up was in the dietary guidelines, they talked about sustainability, and the meat industry got very upset and said, you will not use the word sustainability. And as a result, you do not find it anywhere. Where is that picture of cloud? Yeah, there. It was this part of the article right there. So again, but as we demand better food, that was the whole idea with the soda thing, and that's her concluding thing about voting with your fork. Your personal choice matters, and you can advocate and lobby or support Congress. I mean, there is a movement now. I mean, we do have the dietary guidelines. There are some some parts of the government are responding to the evidence that of what makes us healthy. And based on working with you, I think all of you know what's basically healthy, and just your community connections, your exercise, and mostly unrefined plant-based diet.
I
Most
think
plate.
I think a lot of those people, a lot of those departments lost a lot of their budget recently.
Well, yes, this is all prior. Remember, this talk is about was about 2017. This is much prior to the current Trump administration. You're absolutely right. We don't know. We're going into unknown territory. And who knows what Health and Human Services is going to do with the dietary guidelines. There's a chance they might actually track down on the refined food and stuff. Kennedy's kind of a loose cannon, isn't he? But who knows where the dust will settle? It is very uncertain times, but meanwhile, there are a lot of people who are switching. And I don't want to be pessimistic because where we're at right now is not necessarily where we're going. I think there are people moving.
Do you
And
have any notion on the number of vegetarian people in the United States in time? I mean, historic.
no, there's always been some.
Right.
I know once after I dropped out of graduate school and we were traveling with my wife and a young child in a Volkswagen camper, unannounced, we stopped in at my aunt, and who was much older than my dad, by the way. It was almost a generation. So she's almost like a grandmother, but of course, she wanted to feed us. And I said, well, Aunt Prudence, we're vegetarian. Oh, so was your grandmother. I'd never known that, but my grandmother was Seventh-day Adventist. So the point being to Carl, there have been vegetarians all along in the West, in this country, but fewer in number. I think in the 70s, the number jumped. And I think these days it's rising. That's my sense, but I do not have the statistics. It would be an interesting thing to look up.
I just looked it up, and so currently we have 6% of the population identifying as vegetarian, and
That's a lot.
uh, and 4% is vegan.
Okay. Out of 350 million people, that's a sizable community.
Right.
Okay, well, I think that's all I have for tonight. Any concluding comments here? This is our last class.
Is it? I got confused between 6, 7, and 8.
That's partly my error, because I think the quizzes, like
Oh
this
yeah,
quiz
right.
says 7 for class 8, because there wasn't any quiz for class 1, and I could have next time I give this, I'll make those numbers clear. The written assignments do correspond to the class number.
I finished those. And
I
then
enjoyed the class and I got a lot of really good information. Thank you very much.
Okay, and
yeah,
Thank
Scott
you.
okay, Scott has recorded all of them, so you could always go back.
Good.
Mhm.
no,
And
I found a lot of good articles, a lot of good
Yes.
angles, and actually I knew a bit about Mayor Adams, but I never read anything from him. You
Yeah.
always hear his name. In fact, Ananda Marga has a very good relationship with him. We have met him on numerous occasions,
oh, really? I didn't know that.
yeah. The Margis in New York City, he knows Ananda Marga quite well, actually.
Oh,
Uh,
that's good. Yeah, there's other articles that show he's a little bit flamboyant and controversial, but uh, certainly just the work he's done to bring, well, in the public schools, over 1 million, and in the hospitals. And I think he's promoting, more food choices in the neighborhoods. Again, these ideas of bringing food into underserved neighborhoods where, like you say, Renee, McDonald's is what, a 5-minute walk?
Exactly.
How far is
Right.
the grocery store where you
Right.
get good food? And if you don't have access to, um, you have to take a taxi to go shop in the grocery store because
Yes.
you don't have a car. And in the rural areas, it's just the same. I don't
Right.
know. Did I share you the article from Huntington, West Virginia? Maybe I didn't. I could post that. Uh, Basically, it was the same thing. They were the fattest city in the United States. And what's his name? Jeremy, forgotten his last name, came and did a show and essentially shamed them. But they made adjustments. And they made adjustments from the community level. And I think there's a lesson to be learned there is not to come from the outside, but to actually, um, what they had is some of the school classmates were growing the food, so their classmates were more willing to buy it. And there's just these shuttle shifts in the school lunch diet and things like that that they did in a way that worked. Whereas a lot of big programs kind of brought from the outside, top down, do not work so well. Uh, okay, well, thank you for
Well,
that,
yes.
and thank you all, and take
All
care.
right.
I guess
All right. Thank you. Namaskar.
namaskar. We can stop the recording, I guess.